Hello there, my name's Sarah McGinley. I'm an occupational therapist and I'm also an occupational therapy lecturer here at the University of Southampton. Welcome to our virtual open day for health sciences, and I'm here to talk to you specifically about the Bachelors of Science and Masters of Science occupational therapy programs that we offer here at Southampton. I'm one of the admissions tutors alongside my colleague Belinda and we'll be taking questions from you later on today. So we hope to see you in the virtual chat room. So some of you will be very familiar with what occupational therapy is. Others of you may be just starting to take tentative steps into thinking about what your career options are in health and social care. So often we get asked, so what is occupational therapy? Well, it's very difficult to describe in words of less than 30, but I'll give it a go. So it's a very broad and diverse profession. We work with people of all ages, so from the smallest of premature babies all the way through to people who may be entering the end of life, and then anywhere in between that. We're uniquely trained in that we are trained across both physical and mental health, and we look at the person as a whole. So we consider the mind and the body to be working as one, and therefore needs to be looked at, assessed and treated as one. So as the title suggests, occupation, we're very interested in those activities or those occupations that people do on a daily basis. So those things that add meaning and value to their daily life. So if somebody experiences an illness or disability or an injury and they can no longer engage in those occupations, an occupational therapist would be able to help support that person to be able to return to their previous level of function and independence. In terms of where occupational therapists work, well, it's very diverse. So traditionally, you would have seen occupational therapists in the NHS and in social services, but we now work across a huge range of settings. So you will find us in the private industry, in the voluntary sector, both in the UK and abroad. So occupational therapy is a really very broad and varied career. So first of all, we'd like to say welcome from the UK's #1 occupational therapy team. That's as per the Complete University Guide in 2020. So just as diverse as the profession is, so too is our teaching team. So the majority of us are all occupational therapists with either clinical, educational or research background, or maybe a combination of all three. We're also joined by Dr. James Gavin, who is a physiologist by background, and also Dr. Maggie Donovan-Hall, who is a psychologist, by background. So you can see that really speaks to that holistic approach of the physical and the mental health speaking with one another. We are led by Dr. Rachel Dadswell, who's our programme lead across the Bachelors of Science and the Masters of Science programme, and also our professional lead for research is Professor Joe Adams. So, if you decide to come to Southampton to do a degree in occupational therapy, both the Bachelors and the Masters of Science will offer you the opportunity to join our professional body, which is the British Association of Occupational Therapists, and you'll also be eligible to apply to register with the Health and Care Professions Council, and that's a legal requirement for you to work as an occupational therapist in the UK. The programmes are also accredited by the World Federation of Occupational Therapists, and that's recognised worldwide. So if you're looking for a career that will enable you to travel, to go abroad and work, then occupational therapy is really a very good choice. So why University of Southampton? Why come and study OT here? Well, there are several things that we think make our programme unique and make us stand out. First being, we are a Russell Group University, so we're very embedded in research, we're research-led, and if you decide to come here, you will be very much involved in research from the beginning of your course all the way through. So we have a really strong history of engaging students in either their own individual research projects or maybe bigger, larger projects that staff are currently working on. So we've had students present their work at national and international conference, had their work published in peer-reviewed journals, and also we've had students that have contributed to a chapter in a book, which is fantastic. We have some really strong collaborations with global universities. So currently we are working with universities in Sweden, Ireland, Belgium, South Africa, Hong Kong, Canada and Australia. So throughout your programme you'll have the opportunity to engage in virtual exchanges where you'll start to think about occupational therapy, what it is in this country, but also what it is in other parts of the world, which is really exciting. We're also the only UK university who offers specific occupational therapy training in additional areas. So we offer some courses in the assessment of motor processing skills and the evaluation of social integration, both of which are OT specific assessments and normally only reserved for occupational therapists who are qualified. So we've got several students this year who will be going out into the workforce having graduated with these additional assessments, and that makes them really very employable and adds something very unique to their toolkit. We also have a really strong and long history here at Southampton with providing diverse placements, or what we call role emerging placements. So in your final placement, in your 10-week placement, you'll be offered the opportunity to go out and work in a setting where maybe occupational therapy is just developing or hasn't actually developed yet. And so examples of that are we've had students work at the job centre, in perinatal care, in equine therapy with horses. We've had students working with veterans associations, and students working with local voluntary organisations such as Age UK and a Young Carers Association. So really exciting stuff going on. As I said, we're Russell Group University and we are led by Professor Joe Adams. And here on this slide you will see just some really lovely examples of the research that has happened in the last few years with both staff and students, and you'd really be encouraged to be involved in this when you come here to Southampton. So you can see here some examples of international research, some examples of local clinical research, and then some examples of us collaborating, like I said, with those universities abroad, which is really very exciting. So in terms of the programme, the Bachelor's of Science is split down into 3 years and the Master's of Science is split down into 2 years. So the Masters will be a brand new programme that starts in January 2021, and as you can see from the bottom of the slide, it straddles the 3-year programme. So really exciting that for the first time, both BSc and MSc students will be working and learning together. So I'm going to focus on the BSc, but very happy to take questions about the MSc more specifically if you have questions in the Q&A session. So first year is very much learning about yourself, thinking about how you react to new situations. We get you to learn new occupations and find out if they're interesting, if they're boring, if they're frustrating, and think about why that might be. Foundational knowledge in your first year, very much looking at pure science, so anatomy and physiology, and social science, so psychology and sociology, but also the underpinnings of occupational therapy, so where we came from as a profession and how we've developed. You'll then start to use that knowledge in your second year and apply it to client groups, to small populations, small community organisations who are maybe experiencing difficulties or physical or mental health problems, and you'll start to think about how occupational therapy can add value. In your third year, you'll think much broader and you'll start to think about the NHS as a whole, social services, bigger organisations, and how you can innovate and how you might be able to change practice and move things forward from an occupational therapy point of view. So here's an example of our 3-year programme. I think it's really important that we let students know that this is a very full-time programme, both the 3-year and the 2-year course. They're both full-time, and you should expect to be programmed Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, and treat it like it's a full-time 40-hour week. So you can see we've got a spiral approach to learning. There's some colour coding going on here. So those blue boxes are very much those clinical skills, hands-on skills that you need to be an occupational therapist. You've got the orange boxes which relate to research. So you can see that starts in year 1. You'll start to critique evidence, and then in your second year you'll prepare a proposal, and then your third year you'll see that through. The purple boxes refer to design. So as OTs, we're very creative. We like to think about the built environment, the environment around us, and how that affects the person and the occupations that they are engaging in. The pink boxes, you will have the opportunity to learn with your peers. So not only your OT peers, but you'll learn alongside physiotherapy, podiatry, health science, midwifery, and nursing colleagues, which is really lovely. Those green boxes are the therapeutic engagement boxes, and they are really where you start to work with local organisations, community organisations, charities, and start to think about populations that live and that you'll work with in our local community. Those yellow boxes are your 1,000 hours of placement. So you'll do a 6-week placement in year 1, 2 6-week placements in year 2, and then a final placement, which is 10 weeks in year 3. And that's when you have the opportunity to do the role emerging placement. In terms of the assessments that you will have when you come to Southampton, you might be surprised to hear that there's just 2 pen and paper exams for the BSc programme. You won't actually do those for the Masters because we expect you to come in with a foundation knowledge of either of pure science and or social science. So the pen and paper exams for the BSc are in anatomy and physiology, and they're in your first year, first and second semester of your first year. Aside from that, the assessments you'll be involved with include case studies, preparing posters, working in groups to do presentations, maybe preparing a DVD or an audio project. Also, you might do some role play, so simulated practice, as you can see here in these photographs. And then, of course, you'll also go out into your practice placement, where you'll have a practice placement educator who will grade you and will support you from the university this end as well. In terms of employability, there's never been a better time to come into occupational therapy. If you think about the national and global pandemic that's going on at the moment, the spotlight is very much on health and social care services, and occupational therapists are very much on the front line at the moment. So, like I said before, you would have traditionally found us in the NHS and social services, local authority, but now pretty much wherever you find people, you will find occupational therapists. And some lovely examples of our recent graduates going out into work beyond the NHS and social services have included a local young carers charity, an occupational health department in the NHS, equine therapy with horses, like I said before, and then also some students going out into paid roles to do further research, which is lovely. So how do we support you? Well, you'll see from these pictures we have a lovely bespoke purpose-built flat. It includes a living room, kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and you'll do lots of simulated practical skills in that area. We also have a sensory room, which you can see in these photographs, and you'll do lots of practical work in there as well. You'll be allocated a personal tutor who will be a member of the occupational therapy team, and that person will follow you through for your whole 3 years. You'll also be allocated a research tutor who you'll be allocated in your second year when you start to pull together your research proposal and you start to think about what project you'd like to do going through into your third year. We've got a fantastic buddy system, so our second and third year OT students offer to buddy up with first years coming in so they can show you around, make sure you're settled in, make sure you're able to access all those new systems that can be quite difficult and challenging if you're not really sure what it is. It's a new system, so it can be quite difficult. We've got OT year reps, so we have a lovely open communication with our cohorts across the 3 years. We have 2 students in each year group who come to our staff meetings every 6 weeks and tell us maybe what's going well, what's not going so well, and what they'd like to see change in the future. And so we have this two-way conversation, which is lovely. We've also got a brilliant OT society, which our OT students have set up in the last 12 months. So they do lots of fundraising for local charities and organisations, and also put on lots of social events for OT students across the 3 years. So if you are interested in applying for occupational therapy here at Southampton, we'd really encourage you to think about these things here on the screen when you're preparing your personal statement. So as an admissions tutor, what I'm looking for is really something of you to come out in your personal statement. I want to understand why you've applied to do occupational therapy and really understand that this is the right career for you. So first and foremost, we need you to have some work experience. I appreciate that's quite difficult at the moment with the current situation, but it doesn't have to be OT specific. So it could be that you've done some voluntary work, it could be that you've done some paid employment, and start to think about the skills and values that an occupational therapist needs to have and how you align with that yourself. I'm not going to go through each of these points because they're quite self-explanatory, but in terms of professionalism, obviously this is a professional course, so we want your writing to be professional, we want to understand what your professional history is, and we want you to be creative. So tell us about a time when you've had to problem solve, when you've had to think outside of the box. And also when you're asking your referee to write something for you, maybe getting them to, again, reflect you as a person and make sure that you stand out from the page. So that's everything from me. Nothing much more to say other than please come and join us. Follow us on Twitter at TherapyUOS. We'd love to have you. We post lots of things on there about what's going on at the university, what's going on locally, nationally and internationally in terms of occupational therapy. And the next few slides, this one is just giving you some more information about the government's announcement about finances. So I'd really encourage you to go and look at that because it will benefit you. There's some money available now for all nursing and allied health professions. And then the final slide just takes you to our website along with the Royal College of Occupational Therapy. And then there's a lovely supplement that The Guardian wrote some years ago about occupational therapy and the added value that we can bring. So thank you very much for listening, and we hope to see you later on. Thank you.